All right, everybody, good evening and welcome to our third community meeting on the Bristol City Reparative Justice Project. My name is Tiffany Hong. I am going to be your facilitator for this evening. We also have Regina, our assistant city manager, as well as Kelly McAdoo, city manager as well. So welcome back, everybody. The last session that we had together, we went into some discussions to decide on how large the steering committee should be. At the end of our meeting, we decided that the steering committee would entail or include 11 core members and 2 alternates. We also had the opportunity to discuss different questions of what we would want to know and learn about potential steering committee candidates. We developed a set of questions which were then sent out to the candidates. So they were given the opportunity to prepare responses in writing, and they'll also have a chance to address you this evening. So for our agenda today, we are going to, we have 3 main objectives. Our first is we're going to provide all the steering committee candidates an opportunity to address the group with a 2-minute speech. We have a total of 18 nominees, which means we have 18 candidates. We'll then have a candidate and community Q&A. So we'll have time for question and answers. So essentially we'll give all candidates an opportunity to give their speeches. And then after that, we'll give you all in the community an opportunity to ask candidate specific questions. If you have questions for them, you'll get time to ask it, and then they'll receive some time to answer those questions. And then from there, we're going to discuss what next steps look like after our meeting today and the voting process. And then we'll also decide on our voting period. So how long the voting polls should be open for, and then when we should close them. And so just a few Zoom logistics. You want to make sure that you know where the mute button is at the bottom of the Zoom screen. I will also make sure everybody is muted during the speeches and throughout the session. But if you need to unmute yourself, again, that's at the bottom of the Zoom screen over to the left-hand side. Please also use the raise hand button whenever you want to speak. This is mostly for when we have the Q&A section or when we go into our discussion about the voting period. The meeting is recorded, so just be mindful of that. And we'll be using the recording of today's meeting to take the candidate speeches and also post them online. So people who are not able to attend today will be able to watch the speeches. And other than that, we thank you for your participation today. So let's go ahead and start off with discussing the speech structure. So how speeches will be delivered and in what order. So for our speech structure, we're going to go in alphabetical order using the nominee list that's listed on the city website. So on the city website, there's some information about the steering committee, the nominations, and then we also have names of nominees. So I will go down the list with the names in green for those who accepted the nominations. So Priscilla, you'll be going first today, and after that, Velda, if you are here, and then Deborah. From there, please be prepared to unmute yourself when I call your name. And then before you start making your speech and addressing the community, please make sure to list your first name and your last name, because we'll be slicing the video recording from today and we'll be attaching it to your specific name so people can watch the video in clips.
Now?
Not yet, Priscilla, not yet.
All right.
Okay. What else? So each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to give your speech. And then after 2 minutes, I will gently interrupt you to let you know that the 2 minutes is up. And after that, you'll have a 1-minute grace period to finish up your thoughts, finish up your speech, and you'll have then a maximum of 3 minutes total. We really ask you to respect the time limit here because we want to make sure that all of the nominees and the candidates get an opportunity to an equal time to address the community. Additional responses will also be available on the city website for further reading if they're not already on there. So I know 3 minutes is short. So that's why we ask people to provide their written responses so you can go and read more about their positions, their interests, their backgrounds, their families, all of that at a later time. And we'll also have some time for questions afterwards. So we ask that you hold your questions for the section. If you do need to write down your questions, you're more than welcome to do so. And then when we go into that Q&A section, you'll have time to ask them. So we'll go ahead and transition into candidate speeches now. So I'm going to go ahead and call on Priscilla first. I will spotlight Priscilla's video so everybody could see. And then when 2 minutes is up, I'll have you start wrapping up, and then you'll get 1 last minute to wrap up your thoughts. And then Priscilla, you want to make sure you say your first name and your last name before you begin sharing. All right, so let me go ahead and spotlight Priscilla's video. And Priscilla, go ahead and unmute yourself and take it away.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Figueroa. And it's an honor to be here part of this process. I was married to a resident of Raffles City, James Figueroa, and his family were the Figueroas, Rachel and Faustino Figueroa, and the grandparents were Maurilio and Maria Chavez, and they lived on Adams Street. I came from Mexico, and I came in 1956, and I started attending the Apostolic Church on Adams Street. So I kept my friendship with a lot of people that are residents and descendants of residents from Raffles City. I took a lot of interest in this process because of my husband's family and my children being descendants of Raffles Cityans. The process, it's I would like something positive to come out of this process. I would like to see recognition from the community and from all over the world about Raffles City. I live in the area of Santa Clara and 8th Street, and we went through the same process to a point because we had no sidewalks on our community, and it was low-income Latino community, and they used to call it the barrio. And I worked with Charlie Santana. He appointed me citizen at large, and we were able to get sidewalks for our community and a little mini park. And I would like the city to recognize Raffles City and have something like Raffles City Day, like a fair or something, and have the children of our community have a Raffles City Day and be taught what Raffles City was. And also the fact that
1 minute remaining, Priscilla.
Okay, and also that the people that were Raffles City were humble as far as money is concerned. They were poor, but there's a lot of success stories, and this is what I like about this process, that we could portray that you could succeed in life even if you don't have too much money, even if you're illiterate, for the fact that you couldn't go to school at the time. And I would like to see a trust or something so that descendants of Raffles Cityans can go to college and make a success for their lives, and also maybe have something like a trust for low income or low interest loans for descendants of Raffles Cityans, so that they could own a home. Now the parents probably couldn't do that, but maybe some of these descendants could actually be helped to own a home. And I just find this very nice thing that the city of Hayward is doing for us. And with my past experience interfacing with various CEOs and companies for Xerox Corporation.
Thank you. Priscilla. It looks like your
and
time is up
team-
for this
Doing
evening.
teamwork, I think I could be an asset to this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. All right, everybody, let's join me in giving a round of applause for Priscilla, please. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna go on to the next person. Is Velda here today? Velda, go.
Yes, I am. You hear me?
Yes. All right, Velda, go ahead and please say your first and last name first, and then you can go ahead and begin addressing the group.
Great. Am I loud enough? My name is Velda Go. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, it's nice and clear, Velda. Thank you.
Great. Okay, my interest in Russell City stems from my great uncle Buster Brooks, who was dubbed the mayor of Russell City due to his activism in trying to get municipal services for the city, and my aunt, his wife, Yvetta Wynn Brooks. So we have a very large family of the Wynn and the Brooks, of which are relatives on my mother's side. So that was her aunt, uncle, and my great uncle. My uncle Buster Brooks also founded and presided over South Hayward NAACP, which still stands today. So in order to continue the activism of the Brooks family, I would really like to carry on to restore what was lost during the Russell City eviction process. My relatives now who lived in Russell City are in their 90s, and while they are very interested in this whole process, they are not of the right ilk to be serving on such tasks, not that their heart is there, but so that's why I'm involved in this process. My experience with the city of Hayward is we started a campaign with them in 2015. I live on, it became a freeway. There were some various changes made to the street. So long story made short, it became very dangerous to live on this once idyllic street that was surrounded by, greenery and deer, etc. So I'm happy to say, after 7 years of long and intense meetings with the city of Hayward, the city of Hayward has successfully agreed to change our street and restore it to the safe haven that it once was for the hundreds of families that feed off of that street. And now all the travelers will come from the new development across the Safeway. I shared that information with you to let you know that I have experience with the city of Hayward, have succeeded with the city of Hayward, in addition to my experience that's listed on my online questionnaire. I work with the city of, the Oakland Housing Authority and the Alameda County Housing Authority as a construction project manager for 39 years. And we dealt with eminent domain and the aftermath thereof, affordable housing, and real estate development. So also my private experience as a landlord since 1992 in privately owned
30 seconds.
by our family residences. I'm very familiar with the real estate development, with the process of the city of Hayward. My family is well established in Russell City. Therefore, I think I have the time and definitely the passion to be an active and valued member of this steering committee, which I'm happy.
Thank you, Velda. That was perfect timing. Round of applause for Velda, everybody. All right, so the next person we have next is Deborah Harris. Where are you, Deborah? There you are. All right, Deborah, go ahead and unmute yourself. You want to say your first and last name, and then you can go ahead and begin.
Okay. I was not able to attend the last meeting, but read the requirements to be a member of the steering committee, which reminded me of the Russell City residents meeting with the city of Hayward
Deborah,
rallying.
can you start
Hello?
over? Oh, can you start over and start with your first and your last name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Okay.
okay. Go ahead. Action.
Deborah Harris, I am a toll-free. Okay. I was unable to attend the last meeting, but read the requirements to be a member of the steering committee, which reminded me of the RC residents meeting with the city of Hayward rallying for sewage and water for Russell City. We were labeled as indigenous, which doesn't mean we couldn't communicate to a government entity or municipality. Not only are we being requested to tell our story again to the researchers, but now we have someone on a call from the University of Hayward who feels we need someone outside to be a part of the steering committee because we apparently aren't capable of speaking or presenting our demands in the reparation process. When we were rallying for water and sewage, although the descendants and residents were indigenous, the message in Spanish, Portuguese, Padua, and English communicated what we wanted. They got the message and now we're unable to communicate. We went through the song and dance for months to ultimately be denied and displaced. Now we're being asked to do the same song and dance with a steering committee as if we are not educated enough to speak a clear sentence and need a university professor to interpret our meaning. Russell City was like a concentration camp for the city of Hayward. They advertised and got everyone to move there, held meetings, listened to our petitions like they were really interested, and in the end, annihilated the community. Then 60 years later, apologize and say they want to make amends for what they've done.
1 minute. Deborah,
Oh, 1 minute, okay,
1 minute left, yes.
okay. So with this process that we're working on now, the only thing that has come out of it so far has been a barbecue, tacos, a mural of a woman that nobody knows, and a statue or some kind of thing put in the park that has to be approved. My feeling is that all the residents, everyone who lived in Russell City should be paid for pain and suffering for each year they lived there, and the landowners should be paid a fair price for the property that they lost during this eminent domain. And that's my take on it, whether or not I'm voted to be on the steering committee, but that's the way I feel. So that's it.
Thank you, Deborah. Round of applause for Deborah, everybody. All right, next up we have, we'll go to Rebecca Hill Long. Where are you, Rebecca? There you are. Okay, Rebecca, I'm gonna spotlight your video. Start with your first and last name, and then I'll start with the timer.
My name is Rebecca Hill Long, and I'm married to Arthur Long, who lived in Russell City until he was 11 years old with his family. His mother and father, his grandmother lived there, sisters, and a variety of relatives used to come and stay with them for a while. I'll just tell you a really quick story. When I met my husband, I was 16, he was 19, and my husband told me about his experience being moved out of Russell City, the tragedy of the entire situation on about maybe our second or third date when I met him. And the reason I tell you that is because this tragedy was so monumental in his life that he actually shared it. It was several years afterwards, but he actually shared it with a new prospective girlfriend. That's how powerful it hit him. And of course, he's been talking about Russell City. We talk about Russell City. He's been sharing the tragedy. He's never forgot it from that day to this day. I know so much about Russell City and about the things that happened there. I myself grew up in Hayward. And it was so impactful that my husband, my father-in-law, actually took up alcohol and pretty much actually drunk himself to death after that tragedy. Never had picked up any alcohol or anything like that before. But anyway, so my passion comes mostly, I grew up in Hayward, which is right next door to Russell City, but mostly the hurt and pain from my husband, my father-in-law, my family on my in-law side, and obviously my kids too, who are descendants. They are Arthur's kids and grandkids. I work in communities. I'm a retired librarian, and in that role, I have done lots of work with communities, done lots of community assessments. Pardon me?
1 more minute.
1 more minute. Oh, okay. I whether or not I'm chosen, and I'm really interested in the best persons to be part of this group because it's very, very important. I will still continue a passion. I'm actually working on a children's book. There's been a little bit written, not enough, but a little bit written for adults. But I want children to know about the legacy of Russell City and to never forget it. I'll end there because my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Round of applause for Rebecca, everybody. All right, let's see. The next person that we have is Yvette Hippolyte. Did I say your last name right, Yvette? Where are you, Yvette? There you are. Oh, I can't hear you, Yvette. Can't hear you. Does it give you the option to connect to audio if you're on an iPhone? We can't hear you yet. No. Do you want to try to, I'll go to the next person if you want to log out and try to come back in, maybe that'll do it. Or if you have earbuds on, it might be going to your earbuds, I don't know. Okay. We'll go to the next person then. Okay, thank you, Yvette. All right, let's go to Carolyn Johnson. Carolyn, are you here?
I am here. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Carolyn. I'm going to spotlight your video. Go ahead and introduce yourself, your first and last name, and then you can go ahead and begin.
Sure. My name is Carolyn Johnson, and I am a descendant of both sides of my family. My great-grandfather owned property and lived in Russell City with my great-grandmother. My grandmother and my grandfather also lived in Russell City. My mom and dad met in Russell City, and my mom was pregnant with me when they were removed from Russell City. I've grown up hearing about Russell City, going to the annual picnics, loved the community that it sounded like it was. I can tell these folks loved each other, cared about each other. It was really a special place. And I didn't fully understand everything that happened, but I knew it was important that our parents got us to Russell City. And so it's special. They would always say to pay attention to what was going on in Russell City, that it was very important, that they felt that there was some sort of injustice done to them, given the community that they had developed and the struggles that they had to live with throughout and thereafter. Both of my grandparents on both sides of the family owned their land free and clear, but subsequently without support and assistance and inadequate reimbursement, they were not able to go into a new property debt-free. They were not able to, in many places, go wherever they wanted. My mom and dad moved to East Oakland and just weren't even allowed to acquire property in certain neighborhoods for a while. And so those things make a difference, make an impact. But one of the things is in our families, we have some great nieces and great nephews who don't know the story. And we think it's important that they and other folks know the story, and that it's important that folks get together and think about how do these things happen? What can we do as a country, as a community to make sure these things don't happen? What does it mean to be restorative to the community and to those folks and their descendants? What does it mean to really talk about as a community what we want to see and who we want to be? I think Hayward has a great opportunity to really set the standard for how these issues are addressed throughout the nation. And I'm looking forward to being a part of the committee and be able to assist in that manner. My background is that I do live now and work in Oakland, California. I work with an organization that focuses on preventing gentrification and displacement, and really working on trying to make sure that folks who want to stay in communities stay. So I find it very interesting that at this point, I was born to parents who were displaced, and in this part of my life that I'm doing that work. And it's such a story that impacts everybody. When you lose a community like Russell City, you lost a lot. You lost history, you lost community, you lost your culture, some interesting information, some interesting art. All those things were lost. And I think it's an opportunity for Russell City and Hayward to think about, and the county and the state and all those involved in this, what happened, to really not just do restorative justice, but to take a moment to tell the truth, to reconcile those truths, to make those reparations and reimagine a future where this would never happen again. So I appreciate all of your time. I'm looking forward to serving if selected and supporting always, because this is a part of me, my family, and my bloodline. And I'm just excited to be here and hope that you will consider me in your nominations. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you so much. Round of applause for Carolyn, everybody. All right, so let's see. Yvette, you want to
Yes.
try it again? Oh, there you are. Okay.
There I am, finally.
Hold on a second. There is a feedback. Did you hear that?
Let me.
You know what? I
That's
think
better?
there you go. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
All
Let me
right.
go ahead and spotlight. You can start with your first and last name and then go ahead.
Okay, my name is Yvette Hippolyte, and as my cousin so eloquently just told you, Carolyn Johnson, this is, something we're really familiar with. This has happened across this great nation since the beginning of time. My grandmother, who was Jessie Mae Henry, had 5 children, and many of them, they lived in Russell City along with her. She left in the mid 60s, 62, between 62 and 66, and made sure that she left. She was able to start over again in Tracy, California. But watching her have to struggle and pick up again, not knowing if the same thing was going to happen once her efforts became productive, you could tell it just deteriorated her. And it turned her into a hardened lady that had difficulty, I think, sharing her feelings because she was so uncertain about her lack of control in her own future and the future of her children. She ended up dying in her late 50s. And I think it was premature. And we lost a great matriarch to our family. And we don't have those stories and that history that she could give to our kids. That's gone. And we used to wonder why she would just cry or she would be so sad all of the time. And now that we have other pieces of the picture in her life, I kind of understand. I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm from an area that's being gentrified right now. It's your Leimert Park area. It's being reconsumed by others who lived there prior to African Americans moving there and bringing their culture and their history. This has been happening since the beginning of time. What I'd like to see is some restitution for all of those that are affected by it. And if I can do that by sharing my skills that I've acquired over 38 years of being employed with county and state government, most of which was spent.
1 minute.
Okay, most of which was spent being sent into other departments when there was corrective action that was necessary as a part of a team that would put together the strategic planning process, carry it out through feasibility studies and fluid action plans to make sure that we corrected whatever problem, whether it was perceived or not. We'd go and find out what it was, and then ultimately place together a corrective action plan to restore whatever was done to most of the populations. Oftentimes it was child abuse, or it was juvenile justice, or it was the COVID, or it was a variety of things. So I'd like to, at this particular point in my life, almost 60 years old and pre-retirement, give something back to help bring us to a place where everybody feels better and can move forward.
Thank you, Yvette. Right on time. Let's give Yvette a round of applause, everybody. All right, next we have, we're gonna go to Marion Johnson, and then it will be Michael D. Johnson. Let's see, Marion, are you here? Marion.
Hello,
Hi,
can you
Marion.
hear me?
Yes, give me
Hi.
one. Spotlight your video. Let me rename you also. I think it's fine, actually. Give me 1 second, okay?
Are you ready?
Not yet. I'm gonna put your name in the Zoom name. It says Russell City, but I'm just gonna put Marion on there, okay?
Okay.
All right, Marion, go ahead and start with your first and last name, and then you can begin.
Hello, my name is Marion Johnson. I am a former resident, along with my parents and my siblings. I had two families on my father's side and on my mother's side. My grandmother, Jessie Mae Henry Johnson, and on my mother's side, Bernice and Cassie Patterson, both of which were homeowners. I'm very interested in being on this committee to give a voice to those voices that went unheard when they testified, which both of my grandparents testified in those hearings, and their questions went unanswered, and they were forcefully removed without any options. They were not given any resources to move. The amount of money they received was nothing in comparison to what they paid. And that is an injustice to them personally, and then further to their descendants who would have benefited from having our grandparents close to us. Both sides. My mother's grandfather had to move back to Oklahoma. My grandmother moved to Tracy, and that's a distance when in Russell City we were all together. We were a family unit. I've worked many years with Alameda County Social Services in the In-Home Supportive Services Agency, and what we did was provide a way for families to remain in their homes, for seniors and disabled, to remain safely in their homes. And this was not provided to our community. We were tossed out.
1
We
minute.
weren't given any resources. And this is what I want to do, is make sure that everyone that lived in Russell City has an opportunity to be restored, have an opportunity to get their land back, and to find out the real truth behind everything that happened, who all was involved, what was their stake in it, and how do we fix it for this community. We appreciate the apology. So I want you to consider me as a person that would be on the committee, to work as a team, and to get the answers and find a way to restore everything that was stolen and taken from this community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marion. Everybody give a round of applause for Marion, please. All right, so next on our list, we have Michael D. Johnson. Are you here, Michael? Michael D. Johnson, is that MD Johnson? You there, Michael? Maybe we'll go to Michael V. Johnson instead. Michael V. Johnson, are you there?
I am.
All right, you don't have video on, is that okay?
I do have video on.
We don't,
Believe-
we don't see you. Is there something covering your camera?
Oh, maybe that's what it is. There we go.
There you are. All right, let me spotlight your video and go ahead and start with your first, middle, and last, and then I'll set the timer.
Yes, my name is Michael V as in Victor Johnson. And I want to first thank you all for the opportunity to discuss my interest in being a part of the steering committee. I've appreciated everything that everyone else has said so far on this call. So what I want to do as a part of my 2 minutes is really talk about reparations and what it means to me, what that looks like. Reparations should begin with truth-telling about our collective history. Russell City, the city of Hayward, Alameda County, our state, and the nation. Uncovering stories about the harm that was done is in of itself a part of reparations. One of the most important things that reparations can do is present history and knowledge as it really occurred, not as a paradigm to abuse or as a tool to manipulate others. Reparation has to start with the integrity of true history. Next is answering the question of how do we repair and how do we repay the former residents of Russell City and their descendants for the harm that was done. And lastly, how do all of the parties involved, those who injured and those who were injured, find ways to ensure and agree to make the commitment to never repeat this injustice again? If the city of Hayward is truly committed to working with former Russell City residents and their descendants to determine appropriate restitution for the city of Hayward's involvement in inequitable treatment and the forced relocation of Russell City community members, then I am committed to the hard work that inevitably lies ahead. Who am I? I am Michael Victor Johnson. I'm the son of Jessie Mae Patterson and Clarence Hardy Johnson. My father's parents was Jessie Mae and Lee Henry, and my mother's grandparents were Bernice and Cassie Patterson.
1 minute, Michael.
Thank you. Who are both homeowners and landowners in Russell City. It is from Russell City and it is in Russell City where they met and married. If there was no Russell City, there would be no me. So it is from Russell City that I, along with my parents, were forced to relocate to Oakland, California. And it's because of that forced relocation that decades of intergenerational wealth building was disrupted. It was a hard stop when we were forced to leave Russell City. And me and several of my family members who've already heard on this call this evening were directly impacted by that forced relocation. So with that in mind, that I, one, accept the nomination, and two, that I hope that I have the opportunity to serve on this steering committee. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Right on time. Thank you, Michael. Round of applause for Michael, everybody. All right, let's see, Michael D. Johnson, there you are. Okay.
Hey, sorry about that. I'm Michael D. Johnson. My grandmother was Lily Batchy and Billy Batchy from Russell City. My mother's Dora Hart, and I have an auntie, her sister, Barbara Johnson. And my mother and my auntie both went to Hayward High at the time when they were in Russell City. My grandmother owned a house, and she also owned one of the local places where they eat at, and had entertainment where a lot of the minority entertainers could go, because a lot of places the minority entertainers could not go to every city and entertain. Russell City was one of the few that they could do in that area, where they could come and entertain the local people. My grandmother used to talk about Russell City, and then sometimes she would get so upset she wouldn't talk about Russell City. She didn't want to talk about it. I'm interested in all the descendants of Russell City getting reparations, getting what they should get, and also knowing, like what Mike said, the other Mike said, is knowing what is the truth of exactly of what happened. And what I bring to the table is I worked as a safety manager for years as for a company, and I'm very familiar with maps, how they work and everything. And then I also, my background is a network engineer of 20 years. So if there's anything technical that needs to be explained or figured out, I can do it. And I'm very interested in whatever happens, what's going to happen here, and I believe it's going to turn out to be very beneficial for everyone. And that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you, Michael. Round of applause for Michael, everybody. All right, let's see. Next on our list is Aisha Knowles. Aisha, are you here? Aisha?
I'm here.
Okay, hold on a second. Oh, there you are. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and spotlight your video. You can start with your first and last name, and I'll start the timer.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this chance to share a little bit of information about myself. I appreciate the opportunity to be nominated. I was born and raised in Hayward, and I live in Ashland, unincorporated San Leandro within Alameda County. And I work as the Public Affairs Manager and Public Information Officer in the Fremont Fire Department. I am a descendant of a Russell Cityan. My dad grew up in Russell City, and my interest in serving or being a part of this steering committee is to ensure that the history and the story of Russell City is told and does not die. So our family owned an auto shop, and I've never seen a picture of the auto shop. And it wasn't until I was able to be a part of the reunion picnic organizing committee this year that I even heard stories about the auto shop. And so this is an opportunity not only for stories of our family, but other families to continue to be told. I am here not only for my family, but for my grandmother, Fanny, grandfather, Abe, my aunts, Jean, Auntie Willie Ann, my uncles, Lorenzo and Bill. And I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Aisha, everybody. All right, let me remove this spotlight on you, and we're gonna go to Ayana Knowles. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, Ayana, correct.
Let me go ahead and spotlight your video, and then start with your first and last, and then I'll reset the timer.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ayana Knowles. I am one of Aisha's sisters and one of James Knowles' daughters. Just want to thank and appreciate all of you for being here. Thank you for the nomination. And just a moment of gratitude for your resilience in these efforts and in sharing the history, inviting the younger generation to represent you and hold on to your stories and elevate your truths. I, if given the opportunity, would love to be a part of the steering committee, but don't see it as just being part of the steering committee. It's really being elevated in the larger Russell City community, which is a family, which is very important to me. I also think it's important that the younger generation be able to carry on your legacy with the same fierceness, tenacity, and commitment that you all have laid out for us. And so I currently live in Hayward, born and raised in Hayward, spent a little bit of time on the East Coast. My background professionally is in nonprofit. I am currently working for the Alameda County Public Health Department, and I have almost 15 years of doing advocacy, community development, and parent engagement. And so I've been doing this work for a really long time, but it doesn't feel like work when you are able to share stories and share your life with other folks and really carry on the important things, because if the stories aren't told, they get lost. And if they are told by other people, parts of that get lost and or left out. And so it's really important to me that this process continue to highlight and elevate the descendants, but most importantly, the residents, before we lose any more. Not only documenting the history, but continuing to tell the history in various platforms, in different ways and places, not just in the city of Hayward, but beyond. And so thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Ayana. Round of applause for Ayana, please. Alrighty, so next on the list we have Gloria Moore. Gloria, are you here? There you are. Okay, I'm gonna spotlight your video. You can unmute yourself. All right, start with your first and last name, Gloria, and then you can go ahead and start.
Okay, my name is Gloria Bratton Sanders Moore. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope everyone had a fantastic day. I'm 79 years of age, and I lived in Russell City for 15 years, from age 3 to age 18. I attended Russell School and Hayward High. I received a Bachelor's of Arts in Sociology from USC and a Juris Doctorate from Loyola Law School here in Los Angeles. I bring a wealth of experience to the committee, having worked for the City of LA's Economic and Workforce Development Department for 30 years. I was the Deputy Director of Planning and Management Information Systems. For 7 years, I was the Director of a Welfare to Work program for the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles. And then I worked 10 years as an Executive Director of a multi-million-dollar nonprofit providing job training and employment services to residents throughout the county of Los Angeles. I've created partnerships among public and private industries. I've taken a leadership role in planning, convening, and facilitating strategic planning sessions with key stakeholders. I've designed and implemented high-impact community initiatives. Most importantly, I am a product of Russell City. I lived in Russell City for 15 years. My brother and I, we played in the toxic waters along the shoreline of Russell City. We drank the toxic milk from the dairy next to the shoreline. I witnessed the mysteriously set fires, the homes burning, lives lost. I walked the unpaved streets on the way to school. When it rained, we sloshed there in the mud. I lived near the dump and the junkyard. I knew the families who had to bootleg electricity. It was very painful. My mother actually attended the hearings that were conducted by the Alameda County Board of Supervisors back in 1963. Last year, I found a copy of the transcripts from those hearings in my garage. That transcript, a copy of it, is currently posted on the website for the city of Hayward. When Russell City was raised, my family moved to Palmacia. My family still owns that home in Palmacia. And I visit my family in Hayward frequently. I have about 20 or 30 relatives still there. My family and I endured the pain and suffering brought on by the racist tactics of government officials, both state, local, federal, by the banks, financial institutions. If I'm elected to serve on the steering committee, to the best of my ability, I will represent the desires of my fellow Russell Citians. I would like to discuss equitable remedies for the pain, suffering, and the multi-generational loss of prosperity sustained by the families who lived in Russell City. And I would like to thank you for considering me to serve on the steering committee.
Thank you, Gloria. Applause and appreciation for Gloria. All right. Thank you. Let's go ahead and go to Sabrina. Sabrina Munoz, are you there? There you are. Okay. Let me go ahead and spotlight your video. Go ahead and start with your first and last name, and then I'll start the timer.
Hi, my name is Sabina Munoz.
I'm so sorry.
And that's okay. And I wish that I had all the rich history and information that you all have been sharing about your family. I don't have that. My dad, I know that my grandmother, Nellie Sanchez, lived in Russell City, and my father, Alfred Sanchez, and his brothers and sister lived there, but they've all passed. So I don't know a lot. I just know that's where my dad came from. And I'd like to be involved in this committee and do what I can to learn more about what my dad went through. He did go to Russell schools, and he graduated from Hayward High. And he told me that there's some information about him in, I guess, the Hayward Museum. But other than that, yeah, I don't know a lot about Russell City, only what was shared, that he used to live there and was displaced. So I would just like to do what I can and be involved from here on. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sabina. Round of applause for Sabina, everybody. All right, so the next person we have is Kathy Rodriguez. Kathy, where are you?
Kathy had a medical procedure yesterday and she is recuperating. She is not able to attend this evening.
Thank you, Regina. We'll send some healing energy to Kathy. And we have sorry, my mistake. That was the end of my scrolling page. Liz Sanchez is next, and then Francesca. Liz. All right, Liz, go ahead and unmute yourself. Start with your first and last name, and then I'll start the timer.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. My name is Liz Sanchez, and I appreciate and I'm grateful for the nomination I received. I was a little hesitant to apply or to go forth because I just wanted for the record to know that that I do work for the city of Hayward. And however, I'm a descendant from of Russell City. My father, who's currently alive, is from Russell City. And I wanted him to be part of this, but when he talks about it, he gets too emotional. So the pain is still there. My grandfather, Celso Moran, had a church there, the church that Priscilla had spoke of, being married there. He was the pastor of the church, and my other grandfather built that church. And today the church went to Hayward on Harvey, and a lot of members that are still alive attend there. And my whole life, I've heard nothing of Russell City, the bad and the good. I've heard about the diversity, the unity, the commitments they all had together, community that thrived with the little that they had. And as a City of Hayward employee, I I see that in our city. I still see the community diverse unity trying to do better things for the community. And I want the city, I want the Russell City legacy to be told to my children, to my future grandchildren. And I don't know if there's anything that could replace the trauma that happened, but just never to forget them and never for the story to be told correctly. And also, in my last 30 years with the city of Hayward, I've been in working with various agencies from Alameda County to the state. I'm one of the main point of contacts for events. And speaking of events, I've worked with Ronnie with the Blues Festival for the last 20 years. And I learned and seen a lot of Russell Cityans come by and just to put their smile on their face because they love that they have this common bond together. And lastly, I just want to ensure that I could be a voice for all representation, all ethnicity, and that whatever the outcome is, I just want it to have fair for all of us and not just from one side, but to have a positive outcome and like either have a gateway or streets renamed, something that's going to be there for forever, even after our generations. And thank you for your time. And I appreciate all the hard work everybody's doing and keeping this alive.
Round of applause. Thank you, Liz. All right, next person is Francesca Thomas. Are you here, Francesca? Here you are. I see your face.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. Start your first and last name, and then I'll start the timer.
Okay. Good evening, family and friends. My name is Francesca Thomas. I am a proud Hayward resident, born and raised here. I even received my degree from Cal State Hayward back when it was called Cal State Hayward. After graduating with my degree in business, I was recruited into corporate America, where I served about 20 years in various tax and senior tax management roles. Right now, I still currently reside in the city of Hayward. I own and operate a small business where I'm responsible for all of the day-to-day operations that include finance, accounting, marketing, sales, and production. My great-great-grandmother, Leona Alves, Miss Alves, as she was known in Russell City, was a business owner and a long-term resident of Russell City, having moved there back in the 40s. She was a property owner with 3 lots. She had 2 residences and 1 business lot where her restaurant, Ideal Dining, was located. It was a family business. My grandfather worked there, my grandmother worked there, even my mother and her siblings worked there. My mother and her 3 sisters also attended Russell School. So when the city of Hayward annexed the city, there was great sadness and despair in the city with my family. My mother lost her friends, their sense of community, and my grandmother lost her livelihood and her sole means of income. In the end, she had hoped that her restaurant could remain open and maybe at least service like some of the workers and possibly the new community, but unfortunately, she was shut down. So I know how critical proper representation is for this fiercely proud community and how important it is that you are represented fairly, eloquently, and treated respectfully. I believe all stories need to be heard and finally given the time and the respect that they deserve. I believe that time has come. That time is now. At the end of the day, I would like to see some form of justice and healing for what happened to the Russell City community. To be honest with you, I don't know exactly what form that might take, but I have a few ideas, along with some the ideas that others shared, such as monetary compensation, possible assistance with housing or educational vouchers for descendants. But in the end, and I feel really strongly about this, I really want to know what the community wants. I really want to know what does the community see as a fair and just outcome. ultimately, whatever that is, I want to know and I want to help get us there. To me, that's what the ultimate goal and responsibility of the steering committee should be. They should be a voice and a representation for this community. Now, I don't have a lot of political experience outside of corporate politics, but I do have experience in management, in team setting, team building, accountability, and as a business owner, I have moved mountains to achieve my goals. I have the heart, soul, and passion for this project and for the Russell City community. My grandparents would be very proud of me and would want me to do this.
Yeah, that includes the 3 minutes.
I only had one more sentence.
Go for it. Go for it.
My grandmother wasn't heard then. I'd like her to be heard now. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Francesca. A round of applause for Francesca, everybody. All right. Let's see. The next person on our list is Cindy Torres. Cindy, where are you? There you are. Cindy, are you ready? You there, Cindy?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Oh, I see 2 of you.
Yeah, I have, oh, one of them just died. So there's only one of me now. That's why I had 2 on. So I have my video off because just bad Wi-Fi connection. So it's better.
Give me 1 second before you start, okay? Okay. Go ahead, Cindy. Start with your first and last name.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Cindy Torres. I am a descendant.
Are you there, Cindy? Cindy?
Yes, I am a, this is real emotional for me. I'm sorry.
Oh,
That
I'm
I'm
so
a
sorry. Go ahead. Take your time.
I'm sorry. I'm silently honoring my grandparents, Virginia and Reyes Pacheco, who lived in Russell City. We had 18 kids, 3 houses. I'm sorry, 16 kids, there were 18 of them all together. Growing up, we've had many family gatherings, and there hasn't been one where Russell City hasn't been mentioned in a positive way. The love, the caring, the camaraderie that was had there. And so I was surprised, to hear over the years the stigma of people that lived there that was left. I asked my uncle Albert Pacheco recently, why? Why I didn't hear the negative stories. And he says, because they didn't take that with them. He learned so much from those days of what community was and should be, to live in a diverse atmosphere where everybody came together and made things work when they couldn't depend on those that should help in the county and the city to help them. I live in a community, Cherryland is an unincorporated area of Alameda County that is underserved and is very similar in the story, I think, to Russell City, because we're very diverse. It's been diverse since I was a child as well. In 2019, the city of Hayward tried to annex us. And the stories that came out for the reasons was because of blight and no sidewalks. So you can see how that just brought back all these stories of Russell City. Not once did I hear anybody say, let's look up above the sidewalks and to the people that live there and ask them what they want. And so I organized and fought against that. because we do not need outsiders coming and telling us what we need and how we need it. I think there are a lot of things to consider as far as reparations, but I would leave that to the committee and the community that's left to decide that. But one thing I'm strongly advocating for is thorough research to accurately chronicle what happened and why it happened. Because as you can see, I live in a community where people still think they can do the same thing in some ways. So we need justice for everyone. And if that's what Russell City will bring to the future generations, then that will be our gift. So I thank you all. I'm honored to be here and part of you and to hear your stories. And I would love to be on this committee to honor my grandparents, as we lovingly called them, Mama and Papa. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Round of applause and appreciation for Cindy, everybody. All right, everybody. That just about concludes our candidate speeches. Tony Nguyen is also a candidate as well. Tony isn't able to join today, but both Tony and also Tony and Kathy will both be on the ballot. So please do read their questionnaire responses on the city's website so you can also learn more about them. All right, everybody. So let's go ahead and just take a moment. Thank you all for preparing your speeches and addressing the community. No, it wasn't easy to speak and also to bring up the experiences and talk about your stories and talk about your loved ones and lost ones. So we're just going to take a minute. So the next portion of our evening today includes questions and answers. So if you heard from candidates today that you would like to ask more of or ask more questions of, we're now going to move on to the question and answer portion. So community and candidate Q&A. So how this will work is that if you have a specific question for a candidate, now would be the time to ask it. So if you have a question, you're going to use the raise hand button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. So let's go ahead and just practice that really quick. So if you go down to the bottom of the Zoom screen, everybody, you'll see a button that says reactions and it has like a smiley face symbol on it. Click that button and then you'll see an option that says raise hand. It's like a bar. Everybody go ahead and click that just for practice. Perfect. Yep, you're going to click reactions and then raise hand. If you're on a tablet or a mobile device, I think there's like a reactions button somewhere, I think in the top right corner. All right, so go ahead and lower your hand, everybody. So if you do have a question, I'll ask that you raise your hand. That way I can see who wants to share and in what order. So if you do have a question, when your name is called, you'll have 1 minute to ask the question. And then from there, you want to make sure to specify who your question is for before you ask it, right? So I'm going to say my question is for Regina. And then you can go ahead and state your question. And then the candidate that you're addressing your question to will have 1.5 minutes to respond. And we just want to keep it structured with a time limit like this, just in case there are a lot of questions. We want to give everybody the opportunity to ask their question and then for candidates to respond. And that will be about it for the Q&A structure. Okay, we've dedicated, I think about how much time? I think 30 minutes for this. So that we can have enough time. Yeah, we'll have 30 minutes for questions. so that we can have enough time to also talk about the voting period and next steps. So I'm going to lower everybody's hand now so we can start. So if you have a specific question for a candidate, please go ahead and click reactions and then click the raise hand button. And you want to specify who your question is for and then go ahead and ask it. So any questions for the candidates, everybody? All right, Zenobia, go ahead and state your question. Oh, you're muted, Zenobia.
My question was for Michael V. Johnson. If the committee decides that to go in a different direction than monetary reparations, would you be willing to listen to that and work with them on that particular subject?
Thank you for your question, Zenobia. We'll allow Michael to answer.
So my response would be that the committee would work collectively to come up with recommendations as to how we would move forward. This is not, I don't believe it's something that one person can make a decision on by themselves. I think that's the point of having a committee of 11, that ultimately it is that committee that decides how we move forward and the ways we would like to move forward. And based on the direction of the committee, I will be in full support of whatever direction the committee chose to move forward with.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael V. Johnson. Thank you, Zenobia. What other questions do you all have? Additional clarification questions or questions you're interested to learn more about from the candidates? Deborah Harris, go ahead.
Question is for Cindy Torres. You are related to the Pachecos, and the Pachecos lived across the street from me, and Albert he was in my class. And I was wondering if he's not interested in being a part of the committee.
He very much so wants to be, but he's not computer literate. You know, he doesn't do, and he lives in Wisconsin, so it would have to be from a distance. He worked. He's designated. So, you know, the family, you know, they're all, the ones that are remaining are very elderly. And so they've asked me to represent them. And so all the information would come from them.
I see.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Deborah. More questions, everybody.
Oh, yeah, I do have a question.
Does anybody else have a question? All right, go ahead, Deborah. Oh, let me unmute you. Hold on. Can you hit the unmute for us? Deborah, can you, do you have another question? Do you want to unmute, please? There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, my question was for Priscilla. She has said something about housing or something, and I wanted her to just kind of explain what she was saying. I didn't quite get all of that as a solution.
Thank you, Deborah. Priscilla, would you like to clarify what you meant by? Oh, Priscilla, can you unmute, please?
Okay, in 1973, that's when housing and urban development came to pass, and it was a federal program. I was appointed by Charlie Santana, a citizen at large for the county. And my area where I live now, I mean, you would know it, but there was no sidewalks. My dad got killed crossing the street because there was no sidewalks, and he had to hurry up and cross and a car came and hit him. But anyway, I was instrumental and I put a proposal to the Alameda County, what is it? The whole group that, you know, planning or whatever it is. And my proposal took place and I proposed that the neighbors get some kind of help to restore their home because we were called the barrio, you know, low income. And Mr. Holland, he came down from the podium and he gave a reporter $1,000 because he thought my proposal was very good, so that we could put a little park in El Dorado. And also I was instrumental, the city of Hayward, incorporating our area into the city because the city just took a bridge, you know, they owned the city, a street, and the members or the neighbors, we were Alameda County. Something happened in the street, we had to call City of Hayward. Something happened in our home, we had to call Alameda Sheriff Department. And if something happened on the side street, we had to call the Highway Patrol. And we were really looked down upon, you know, we were kind of minority, you know, and so it reminds me what happened to Russell City. And we were successful because the families, we collected signatures and we went and spoke to the city, you know, and finally we were incorporated to the city. And our project, because I guess my mom, you know, we were the first group to get sidewalks for free.
Got you. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, Deborah. We'll take the question next up from Michael V. Johnson.
Yes, my question is for Liz Sanchez. I wanted to piggyback off of your concerns that you identified during your presentation about the fact that you are a City of Hayward resident, City of Hayward employee, which raises issues around conflict of interest. And the questions for me is, as an employee of the City of Hayward, what risk do you place yourself in if there are decisions that are made that will require you to move forward with a recommendation that calls for some type of reparation to be imposed upon the City of Hayward? And how will you deal with that as a member of the steering committee? Would you abstain from that vote? How would that work?
Thank you, Michael. Let's go to Liz. Oh, go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Michael Johnson. And that's a great question. And I did seek from our Assistant City Manager, Regina, that same question, because I do value my job. However, I do value the voice that I will be for my family, because I'm homegrown, raised, went to the dumps, heard it through all the funerals, parties and stuff. So I strongly believe that I could be, my work would be definitely separate than the reparations group. And I would definitely have total, they would be totally separated. I would be along with the steering committee, whatever the majority would go. I wouldn't take a step back because of me being a city employee.
What job do you currently hold?
I'm a management analyst and I work in facilities. So the executive level, I only work with them in terms of events. So I'm not part of that executive team. I'm a management analyst, but I do the budget for facilities, which is city buildings, which is fleet department, which is the maintenance services department. So I do not touch that part of the city.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you.
You're
Michael.
welcome.
All right, we'll go to Rebecca Hill-Long. Oh, go ahead and unmute, Rebecca.
Okay, thank you. My question is directed to Deborah Harris. In your speech, you intimated that it was problematic to have a sort of a third party facilitator. I think you called it someone from college to oversee this process. And I was just wondering if that is something that you would be able to work with, because it sounds like that is a given that there will be some contracted person who will be part of this process, even in the next phase. So I'm wondering how that will be mitigated for you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Go ahead, Deborah.
I think I could work with that, but what I was talking, when I was in my speech, someone had said they wanted to be on the steering committee that was not from Russell City or a descendant. That's what I was talking about. Who was a professor or something, I don't know, and felt that we couldn't write a clear sentence. But I know that we're going to have outside people working, because we have the city, they're going to have analysts to come in to write and get information and stuff. So no, I would not have a problem with that.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Deborah.
Sure.
Any other questions? Are there any other individuals who are candidates who are also City of Hayward employees? Question from Sabrina in the chat. If you know of any, please go ahead and type that in the chat, everybody. Looks like Regina will probably respond. All right, are there any more questions from the community for any of our candidates, what they spoke about, and any clarifying questions you would like to ask, or any additional questions?
Oops.
Oh, we'll go to, let's go to Cindy and then we'll go to Liz. Go ahead, Cindy.
Hi, I wasn't really clear on the answer, if it was answered, that Deborah had asked about people who are not outsiders, who are not descendants in any way, being part of this. Is someone going to answer that question? Too?
I'm going to defer to Regina.
I think that's something that came up at a previous meeting, as far as the
Correct.
individuals who have spoken here today as nominees who have accepted the nomination. Everybody has a clear connection that they've articulated to Russell City. And so just to be clear, the gentleman that raised the concern previously at least indicated that he had a connection to Russell City, but was advocating for allowing individuals onto the steering committee who maybe didn't have a connection to Russell City, but that maybe had some political acumen or some other special skill set that could be of assistance to this group. That was rejected by the community during that meeting. And to my knowledge, everyone that was nominated has a connection to Russell City. And in fact, everyone that accepted exactly today that you've heard from has intimated and indicated that they have a clear connection to Russell City. And I do believe that part of the work of the steering committee will be kind of defining out for operational purposes, what is a descendant of Russell City? You know, what does it mean to be a former resident, so that we are really clear when individuals come forward later after you've done all this work and they say, hey, I'm a resident as well, or a descendant as well, that you all have a means by which to vet those statements.
Can I ask, thank you for that. And can I also ask one more question? who is allowed to vote? Are just the people here, or because these videos are supposed to be out there for other people to see? So what audience?
Yes, so anyone that is signed up for the project, because not all individuals, we have about 150 people that have signed up that indicate that they have a relationship to Russell City as a former resident or a descendant. Those individuals will be sent the ballot. Those will be the only individuals that have the ability to vote. The communication that I sent out, I do believe it was October 11th, had a note bolded and underlined at the bottom of that message that said, at this time, everybody who is wanting to be a part of this project needs to sign up to the project site for themselves. I understand through third parties that there may be groups of people who are meeting with other groups of people who maybe haven't signed up through the project site, but they're getting their information from a representative that might be here. Those individuals will not have an ability to vote or interact with this process or to receive direct communication and updates for themselves if they don't sign up for the project through the project site. So this is not a free voting for all. Dog didn't like that, I think. I don't know if that was a positive or negative response. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Cindy. Liz, go ahead and ask your question. Again, we're asking questions of candidates right now, everybody. We'll take about 10 more minutes of this and then we'll move on to the next section. Liz and then Zenobia.
A second, because my dog is barking at somebody outside, or he was. Sorry about that. I just wanted to add to my question. I forgot to mention that I'm on a short-term close to retirement. At the end of next year at 55, and I've had 32 years of service. So I'm not sure by the time I do retire what decision will be made on the reparations. So just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Zenobia.
My question was for Regina, right quick. If people have not signed up prior to this process right now, are you saying that they would be still able to sign up?
Yes. And so when we finish with the question and answer period for the nominees, we'll talk a little bit more about the next steps for the voting, and I'll go into that then.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Zenobia. Let's go to Rebecca.
This is more a comment than a question. I don't know if I represented myself enough in the right way. I was not actually a resident of Russell City, but my husband was. He lived there until he was 11 years old. And so my parents, my in-laws were residents, and my children are descendants. So my connection is through my husband. My husband's not able to be part of this group. He doesn't have, well, actually, he's actually pretty sick, but he just does not have the, he won't be able to do it. It's too emotional, and he just is not up for this kind of a process, although he is involved in spirit. So I'm his right-hand woman, so to speak. I just wanted to say that, in case there was some concern about me. I don't know if I actually represented myself very well in my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Are there any other questions that you all have for specific candidates on the speeches that they provided? Regina, there was a question. Have signups to be on project closed as far as voting purposes?
No.
Okay. Are there any more questions, everybody? Great question. How will alternates be selected? The alternates will be the people who have the highest votes, but they weren't part of the top 11. There is also a question in the chat for the candidates, which you can also put and respond to in the chat, but a question from Yvette: does everyone have political aspirations? Feel free to put it in the chat, everyone. It looks like Aisha Knowles responded. Aisha is an elected official, elected on the Alameda County Board of Education. So if you have political aspirations, you can share that in the chat. Thank you, Ayana. Ayana says, I do not have political aspirations at this time.
I can't find this thing.
Oh, go ahead, Deborah.
Please. When I was talking, I lived in Russell City for about 20 years. So from birth until the time I got married, and I didn't say that in my speech because I was so busy trying to say it and didn't put that information in there.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everybody, for clarifying in the chat. If you're a candidate, if you want to respond to that question, do you have political aspirations? You could put yes or no in the chat. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on for questions, everybody. If you do think of questions that you have for candidates, this evening or tomorrow or the next day, you can also reach out to the candidates directly to ask your questions. So we encourage you to do that. Sometimes the questions don't sink until later, or maybe as you start reviewing their questionnaire responses, you have clarifying questions for them. So you can feel free to reach out to them directly to ask your questions. So we're going to go ahead and go into the next section now, which is on discussing next steps. And after we discuss these next steps, we'll go ahead and talk about the voting timeline and voting period. So what's going to be happening after today? So the plan is that you will have the opportunity to read the candidate responses. So those are listed on the steering committee page on the City of Hayward website. So if you scroll all the way down, you'll see the names of all of the candidates, and you'll be able to click that link there right next to their names to read more about their responses to our questions. You will have the opportunity to ask questions. You can reach out to the candidates directly if you want to learn more about them or have questions about their positions, their views, their affiliations to Russell City. A voting link will be sent out to the community to cast their 11 votes. You can only vote for each person once. So you can't vote for one person 11 times, even though you really like them and you want them to be on it. You can only vote for each person one time. You'll have a total of 11 votes. And again, the alternates will be chosen based on the 2 runner-ups. So those who have the highest votes, but they are not the top 11. We'll then close the polls based on the deadline that we decide tonight, and then we'll announce the results 2 days after the polls close. Okay. Any questions about these next steps? Otherwise, we'll talk about the deadline to respond to the voting link. Aisha.
Thank you. So I have a question about the reaching out to candidates directly. So people can contact us via reviewing our information that's available publicly, So this theoretically means that anyone from the public can also contact us?
Good question. Regina, what are your thoughts?
It is not the intent that anyone from the public would be able to contact you for the purpose of voting because they don't have access to voting. But you are correct. That information is posted on the site for transparency purposes. And I don't know that we'd be able to prevent someone from deciding to reach out to individuals who have accepted the nomination. Do you have some suggestions for how we might do this differently?
Not in this exact moment.
And
Can you hear
so
me?
one thought that I had was so one person can reach out and you can reach out individually, but other people may not have that information, like it's best to try to ask these questions in the forum so that everybody hears the response. And even the folks that didn't make it tonight, they could at least watch the video and get some answers. What could happen is that the email could happen amongst the community using the means by which we all communicate now, that listserv. And if someone has a specific question, they can put it out to the listserv saying, I would like this person to answer this question. That person answers, and the entire community that is a part of the listserv has the information to make their decision making clearer. But that's one thought.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Regina.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Belta.
The list, how are you proposing that the public contact the nominees? Are you guys publishing our personal emails or what?
We're not proposing that the public contact you. The steering committee site is specifically for the steering committee, although other individuals have the ability to access it. So if there is a concern that members of the public might reach out, we can certainly redact information, right? And then we can come up with another means such as the one that I just suggested, to have individuals ask questions amongst this community.
Great. So that I think, is that Regina? I think you're saying the same thing. I wouldn't want my personal email put out there, but through the means of the website and all of that, I'm sure your IT can come up with some sort of, like you said, listserv. However you guys do it, I know you have enough IT info at your disposal to have it broker through the city of Hayward to get to us without people having our personal email.
Thank you, Velda. Yeah, it sounds like the concern is having your emails put out publicly, right? So we'll find a way to get those questions to you, whether that's through the listserv or maybe there's just a form that people fill out with the questions and the city forwards them on directly to the candidates, and the candidates can send their questions back out. Or
Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you, Velda. Let's go to Michael D. Johnson for your question. Did you put your hand down, Michael? Okay.
No, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm here. Well, one way they could maybe get around that also is have it where there's like make it like a shared drive, like on Google Drive. They have different things where the only people that can access it is access the information or make a decision on it if you're not already in the Google Drive. Right? If you're in the Google Drive, then you can respond or whatever. But if you're not in the Google Drive, if you don't have access to it, and that would be based off of everyone's email address, right? Where you could do that, and you could make the actual. If someone wants to address the committee itself, then the committee would have its own email address that would be committee, right? Then just like we're voting now, our email address does not have to be out there like that. They could be on a shared drive where all of them are there. We could all see them because we have access to it because our emails are registered, right? But people outside it would not be able to see. And we would not be able to make any changes on anything in the shared drive unless we had permission. So that's just the idea. Thanks.
So just for clarity purposes, I wanted to clarify that none of your contact information is currently available on the project site. Response, so when you answered that survey and your responses were extracted, I know one of the questions was, what's your name, what's your phone number, all that kind of stuff. But when we pulled the information out of SurveyMonkey, excuse me, you can pick what information you want to be seen. And we did not, for that purpose, thank you for asking the question, Aisha, to help jog my memory. We did not put your personal contact information as a part of those responses. So if you go there, you can see the person's name, obviously, because they've been nominated and accepted, and there's no contact information.
Yes, just your first and last name and just your responses, and that's about it.
And so I appreciate the additional suggestions, and I'm on with my comms team now, and we will figure out a way to have you all be able to ask questions in a closed environment.
Thank you, Regina. Yvette.
Oh, no, I was just going to piggyback on that. I think they've already responded, because one concern would be that, can you hear me? I didn't know if I unmuted.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. That, this could possibly just
Oh, you're
in
breaking
and of itself could be, we could have issue.
You're breaking
Can you
up.
hear me?
You're breaking up a little bit. Maybe I'm gonna.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but I'm gonna stop your video, but you can just keep talking because it's breaking up a little bit. The reception might not be so good.
Okay. No, I just a concern, we need to think about is that, these are sensitive issues for many. The demographics in Hayward now are very diverse, and we may need to keep in the forefront of our mind, there may be some that are disgruntled about this steering committee even existing. So, let's just make sure that we're cautious in protecting the members of the steering committee in any way we can.
Thank you, Yvette. Yeah, we'll want to make sure we protect steering committee members, the candidates, their identities, especially considering the different political climate out there. All right, we'll take one last question about the next steps, and then we'll move on to talking about voting. Velda?
In that regard, I think during my comment, I said I lived on Campus Drive. Please redact that.
Thank you, Velda. We'll note that for the IT team, Regina. Okay. Thank you, Velda.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So in regards to voting, there was a question that we had asked you all about how long should community members have to vote for candidates and select steering committee members. So we're going to just engage in some community discussion now about the voting period. So the city had sent out a poll around how long people should get to cast their votes. We asked about 2 days, 5 days, 7 days, 1 week, I think, and also 10 days and then other. So most people chose 2 days and 7 days. So just want to give everybody an opportunity to discuss in the breakout rooms first, and then we'll share out in the large group. Is having 2 days to vote better or 7 days? Why? So we'll have an opportunity to discuss 2 days or 7 days. Which one do you think is better and why? Allow the conversation to flow in the large room, and then we will put out a live poll that we'll do right now after we discuss it to see how long we should keep the voting period open for, 2 days or 7 days. Okay.
Can I ask a question before we do that?
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Can nominees vote? Or maybe that's been
Yes.
already answered.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I saw that in the chat just now. All right, everybody. So I'm going to have you, we're going to go into breakout rooms. We did this last time where I move you all into a small group with groups of 2, maybe 3 people. And I just want you to talk about, do you think we should have 2 days to vote or 7 days and why? Okay. So let me go ahead and mix up the rooms now and or assign you all to a breakout room randomly. When you get there, you just want to say hello to one another and then go ahead and discuss this question. You'll just have about 3 minutes or so, actually 5 minutes. So I'll have you discuss that question and then we'll come back into the larger group to discuss out loud. All right, everybody, let me go ahead and open the rooms and Zoom will transition you there automatically. So you don't need to click anything at all. If you get into a room and you're having trouble, at the very bottom, there's going to be a button that says ask for help. So you can click that and we'll go ahead and move you or come in and address any questions. But Regina, Kelly, and I will just circulate. Welcome back, everyone. Breakout rooms are closing in 3 seconds. All right, and we are back. All right, who would like to share out? What did your groups discuss? 2 days or 7 days? If you'd like to share, go ahead and click the raise hand button.
Groups decided on 7 days.
Sorry, Priscilla, I'm gonna go to Zenobia and then we'll call on you, okay?
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Zenobia. Oh, Zenobia, you're muted. You're muted.
We said 2 days, and the reason being that people have already had a chance to hear everything. So we thought 2 days was enough time.
Thank you, Zenobia. Robin, and then, oh, I'm sorry, Priscilla, and then Robin.
Okay, we thought of 7 days because some people might not get to their email in a day and they have to read what people have to say. They have to listen to, you know, what they want to be, whatever. So they have to, just for the name, voting might not be the most, the best answer, you know, because you need to know who's qualified to be part of the core group.
Yeah, thank you, Priscilla. Robin, and then Gloria.
My group decided the same thing, 7 days, because I'm sure there are many on here that have a plethora of things that they're doing throughout the day. And sometimes I may forget, not on purpose, but I just may forget just most important things. And so we thought 7 days would be appropriate.
Thank you, Robin. I see Sabrina's group 5 also said 7 days. Let's go to Gloria and then Sabina.
Okay, my group, we decided on 2 days, and we recommend that we would start Friday at noon and end Tuesday at noon. Because tomorrow, Friday, and Tuesday at noon, that gives everybody 48 hours to actually vote. We felt 7 days was way too long. And then we had 2 other points. Should I bring them up now, or they're related to the voting? Okay, we felt too that only eligible voters should be those who are currently registered once the nominations start. So the cutoff for eligible voters should be tomorrow, Friday at noon, if that's when we start nominations. And then the third thing that we thought is we would prefer that you not post our videos on your public site, that you only post the bios.
Thank you, Gloria. All right, so I heard recommending that it's going to the voting happen starting Friday at noon to Tuesday. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then
that's 2 business days.
2 business.
A little over 48 business hours.
And then it would cut off the enrollment to vote would be Friday at noon tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah, if you're not registered by tomorrow at noon, you should not be able to vote.
Okay, and then what was that last point again?
The other point was that we would prefer that you not post our videos from tonight, that on your public site, that you only post the bios. The bios and the videos are basically the same, but to protect us and our identities, I don't think you should post.
Okay. All right, if anyone else wants to chime in on that, please do. That might make it less work for the city to slice the videos and upload them, so that and might maybe safer to preserve your identities as well. So
right.
Thank you, Gloria. And then let's go to Sabina.
Hi, group 10, we went with 7 days. We thought that was a good amount of time to make a decision.
Thank you, Sabina. Let's also go to Ayana.
My group agreed on 7 days. However, we asked that the city be able to turn around the results in at least or less than rather 2 days because it is all digital. We also asked that the 7 days be 7 days from whenever the voting starts and that it is a hard stop so that it is not extended after the fact. We want to have integrity for the votes and that the number of votes each candidate gets be posted as well.
Thank you, Ayana. And let's go to Michael V. Johnson.
Thanks. First, I have a question. I heard earlier that there were a total of 150 folks who had already registered on the city's site. Is that correct?
That's correct, approximately, yes.
Okay. Second question. How many people are here on the call tonight?
31, excuse me, 31.
Right. So we have less than 1/5 of the people who are registered who are actually tuning into this call tonight. And for that reason, we thought that the period should be longer rather than shorter, because if people aren't even on the call, a full, 80% of the folks are not even here. By the time they find out, the voting period would have already ended, right? So we don't think that that would be fair to those people who've taken the time to register to have a short period of time. And then the other question would be, not a question, but it's more of a statement. And I kind of agree. We're at this point, and I don't know how long we've been doing this. This is the third meeting, but we've got 150 people who are already registered, right? So we should move forward with the eligible people being the 150 people who have already registered. There's no need to continue to open it up when we already got those people who've taken the time, they've done their registrations, and they've attended the meeting. Otherwise, you get what you do is you give people the opportunity to invite a bunch of people who have nothing at all and no interest other than getting certain people placed on the committee to get placed on the committee. So to allow people to continue to sign up throughout the voting period, it just smacks of opportunity of disingenuousness and concern about the validity of the votes that come in if you continue to allow people to register throughout the voting period. And then the last thing is that we could have a compromise. It may not have to be 2, it may not have to be 7, it could be 5 days. We're going to present it with 2 and 7, but that's the other idea, is whether or not it could be something between the 2, maybe 5, more on the longer end than the shorter end. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification about continuing to register on the site. Once the ballots go out, that's it. You can sign up during the voting period, but you won't be issued a ballot, right? So whoever is signed up at the time that the ballots go out.
Okay.
But we will not stop people from registering for the project because we want them to get additional information, but they won't get a ballot if the ballots have already gone out.
That makes sense.
Thanks.
Thank
That
you.
does make sense.
Thank you, Regina. And also, Regina, on that poll that was sent out to the community about how many days, 5 days was on there, right? There was 2, 3.
Yes. Well, it was 5 to 7. So I think it was 1 to 2 days. No, it was like 3 to 5 days. And then there was 7. So it was like different options. So 7 was a clear option and 1 to 2, those 2 got the most votes.
Okay.
Which is why we're saying, okay, 2 or 7.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Regina. Aisha.
Group 4 said something similar. So we did support the 7-day option, but our counter proposal was 5 business days with the hope that the process was completed within 7 days. So if it needed to be extended, that it was completed by 7 days.
Thank you, Aisha. So
But not a 7-day process that then is extended an additional 2 days.
Okay,
If
so
that makes sense.
I think that makes sense. So what you're saying is 5 days plus 2 days of the weekend, not 5 days plus 2 days in a weekend plus
Well,
2 days.
not 7 days. And then there's a flurry of emails that come in because people had email problems, computer problems, or emergencies.
Oh,
So, an effort to really vote within a 5-day period. And then if, a contingency is if people need an additional day, it's, it falls within a 7-day range if needed.
Got it. Okay, so 7 days and that's it, but a hard deadline. But we're going to push people to vote within 5 days and encourage them.
Yes.
Yeah. Yvette?
Okay, just clarification. So when we're talking about 7 days, that's 5 work days and 2 days for the weekend? Or are we talking about 5 work days, 2 days for the weekend, and then an additional 2-day work week? Because that'll be more
9
than
days.
7 days. So that would be 9 days. So
Right.
I just need some clarification. Are we
Yes.
going, because Ms. Moore's idea sounds wonderful. It's a wonderful marriage between the two. You have 2 days during the week, because if you're too busy during the week, you can't get to your email. You then have 2 days on the weekend, which would give you a total of 4. So I think that in the spirit of what we're trying to do, we don't want to lose our momentum. That's number one. And I think this process can become cumbersome if we allow it, but I think on many levels it's not necessary. This doesn't seem to need to be this complicated, I don't think. But maybe, like I said, this is what I offer, the 2 days plus 2 days on the weekend, or clarify for me, please, if the 7 days includes an additional 2 days on the other side of the weekend.
All right, everybody, I'm gonna go ahead. Regina, were you gonna?
Yeah, I think the proposal that we had was that we would have the voting, or that the question, I don't want to say proposal, but the intent was to have voting open for a full 7 calendar days, if that is the number that is chosen. And then the city would need a couple of business days to turn the information around, right? Because the team that does the work may not be working on the weekends. They typically are not scheduled to work on the weekend. But I have heard you ask the city to do what it can to turn the information around faster than 7 days. And what we can possibly do is announce to this body what the results are before we're able to actually put it online. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that will take, okay, yeah. So, I mean, there's work behind the scenes that has to go into updating the city's website to list the information and to put things there. A simple email to the community is an easy thing, to pull the information directly out of SurveyMonkey and say, here are the steering committee members, but it's not formally announced on our city's website. Does that make sense, Zenobia?
No, well, I'm confused. That I trying to understand, because with the city telling us who is on the steering committee, for me, is not as important as getting the votes into the city, and that closing the election process.
Gotcha.
For me, that's the most important thing, because once I'm sure that they're not going to sit on it and have it more than and have the information more than they need to have it. But to get the votes into them and have a set deadline that the voting process is, I think, is more important than trying to turn around or do the other thing, because I think that people have given the time to sign up. And I understand what you're saying about people can still sign up, but they won't be able to vote. And I think that's a good thing, because I think, like Michael was saying, you have some erroneous people going out and trying to collect votes after this process that we've had tonight. And so I know there may be a few people that were unable to come tonight, but I'm sure that they will, if they're interested, will look at the videos from today and understand that they only have so many days to get their vote in. So I guess what I'm saying is, I like what Gloria said. Okay, if you close the voting tomorrow at noon, I mean, not close, but close the election.
The signups for the
the signups tomorrow at noon, and then they have the weekend, and we can vote on the weekend, and then have the 2 days. And I think that that would streamline the process and get everybody on board that who is interested in getting on board. And I'm guilty of not opening my email all the time, but that's on me. It's not on the committee. It's not on individuals, other people. So I would need to be more diligent in doing that. And I think everybody needs to be diligent that is interested.
Thank you, Zenobia. So it sounds like you're for also opening it on Friday through the weekend, and then having like 2 days next week for people to vote.
Yeah. And I don't know if the two people, I don't want to overtalk Drusilla and Hippolyte to do it, but that's my what I saw doing it. So Drusilla, if you have something, or Miss Hippolyte that was in our group have something different, that they can also chime in.
Okay, it looks like they're confirming. Drusilla confirmed too. Nodded her head. I see in the chat also, Michael V. Johnson said voting begins on 10/21, which is tomorrow, and ending on 10/25, which is next Tuesday, with results announced on 10/27, which is next Thursday. Regina, is that feasible with your team to send out all the communications needed?
It may be possible.
To send out the voting link by the end of, well, sometime tomorrow?
That is possible. I would just need to, I think it's possible to send out the link. But it doesn't necessarily speak to, is that the 7 days that most people are saying? Okay, so I really feel like we probably should launch the poll.
Okay.
Before we kind of start talking specific dates.
Okay, thank you. Let's take, we're gonna take Michael V. Johnson. Do you have another comment?
Hello?
Yeah, yes, so no, my comment was I just wanted to point out what I put in the chat, that was all.
Thank you. Michael D. Johnson?
How do you know that you're registered that you have registered to vote?
Yeah.
What's your confirmation that, oh, you've registered to vote?
Well, most individuals who have registered are receiving communications about these meetings. So you all have received, if you've received the communication, that means that you are in our database. Mr.
Right.
Johnson, as we spoke with you yesterday, you were added to the database.
Well, I'm really asking this for my mom, because she's freaking out. She's getting nervous that she hasn't done the registration correctly. So she's really antsy about knowing if she's registered to vote.
Yes. Has she been receiving communications about these meetings?
I believe she has, but she's not a computer person. Is there any way she received something from Regina Youngblood?
Yes, and so that's me.
Okay.
And so that probably means that she's in the database. If you want to shoot me her name and email address, I can definitely confirm, right? Because so what we found with you is like you were using a different email from the other one. So, we just need to make sure. That's
Okay.
why I sent out that last communication
Yes.
on the 11th. Make sure that you're signed up for yourself using your email address. And that is how you're going to get information as well as the link for voting. And each
Okay.
person is going to get an individual link. So it's not going to be one that can be shared.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, everybody, I see some hands up, but we're gonna need to move on to the poll now because we're gonna launch a poll in Zoom. That's gonna ask you 2 days or 7 days. So everybody gets their individual vote. And then there we'll talk about specific dates because we only have 10 minutes left in our session. I wanna make sure that we can talk about this. So I'm gonna launch.
I gotta ask this question.
Can I?
I need the question. I have a question. I just have to ask you before we go to the poll. It's
Go
just
ahead,
quick.
Yvette. Oh, go ahead, Yvette.
And I think it'll be helpful. Okay. What if we're choosing a number 7, right? But we don't know which part of that 7 has to do with the actual voting. I noticed when we asked Ms. Youngblood if we could finalize this by next week, she didn't really know how many days were required of your office to process the votes and then get back to us. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
If
no,
voting-
I think that's a misconception, Ms. Hippolyte.
Okay,
So
clarify for me.
Tiffany's office is not involved in processing any of the voting. The voting is coming directly to my comms team. And what I said at the beginning of this discussion was that we would take 2 business days to process the results, right? So 7 full days of voting, if that is what you choose, is your voting period, whatever date it starts, and 7 calendar days after that, if that is what you choose. And then we were saying, just give us 2 business days to get the information out, right? And when I meant out, I meant like out up on the website or whatever. But if it doesn't need to be that formal for you all to have the results as quickly as possible, we can get the results to you, this community, as quickly as possible, but the work still isn't going to commence until we have another meeting with that steering committee. So, it's your pleasure and we can do whatever. Yep.
I really want to say something before we vote, if I may.
One last thing, Priscilla, and we're gonna have to move on because we need to end at 8 o'clock. And if we want to talk about specifics, we'll need to do that.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. 7 days, it's a good time for people to read about. I mean, what information are you giving the rest of the people about each individual? They have to read what we are about, or they're going to vote blindly. I mean, you need to digest that information. There's a lot of reading to know what individuals, when you read that information that you send us. It took me a while to read it.
Yeah.
And people have that kind of time to read it and digest it.
Yeah.
And make a wise choice. And this is something that we have to look at, and that's why I'm saying 7 days should be, and then whatever time it takes for the city to process. We're in such a hurry to get this done. I mean, we've been at it for a long time, and we talked about it when we were prior to this. So that's my take on it.
Thank you. All right, everybody, I'm going to launch this poll, 2 days or 7 days. And if anybody chooses 7 days, we'll do another poll, which is 7 calendar days or 7 business days. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll now. And go ahead and click when prompted, 2 days or 7 days, and we'll go with the one with the most votes. Go ahead and use the poll, not the chat.
The poll, where's the poll at?
It should be a pop-up on Zoom.
I don't see no poll.
I see the voting period, but I see the 2 days.
You'll see submit.
Oh, I see it.
Where is it?
It's on the right-hand corner.
Hello?
I don't
Can
know
you hear
where it's
me?
at.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Tiffany?
Yes, Velda.
Okay, so I already voted I don't have any of that thing. I'm on the phone. Sabina put our vote in for us
Oh,
for
did
7 days.
7? Okay, Regina, will you mark that for Velda?
Yeah, I said Sabina. Okay, yeah, but please mark my vote. Thank you.
Yes. And then Deborah, you can just say what yours is. Because right
7.
now, 7. Okay, that's the majority right now. We've got 20 out of 24 people voting for 7 days.
All right, so we got 7 days, everybody. All right, so we got a total of 24 votes, and 20 people voted for 7 days and 4 people voted for 2 days. So given that there's 2 more people who have left to vote, I don't think voting for 2 days will skew it. So we're going to move forward with 7 days. And I'm going to go ahead and launch another poll. Now I'm going to end this poll. Should show you the results. So the next poll that I'm going to put out is 7 business days. So that would be it would be open from Monday through Friday, plus the weekend, plus Monday and Tuesday. Or we'll do 7 calendar days. So that would be like, if it launches tomorrow, Friday at noon, then it would go till next Friday, the 28th until noon. Okay. So go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and launch this next poll. What kind of days is what it's called? The 7 business days or 7 calendar days. And Velda, if you want to chime in about which vote you want to put in, chime in and we'll put that in for you.
Um, 7 calendar days, Zelda.
Okay, thank you, Velda. Regina, will you mark that and use your vote for Velda?
Yes. So we've got 20 out of 25 with 7 calendar days. 21 if you count Velda's vote. So it looks, yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. It looks like 25 people have voted. All right, so you should see the results on your screens. It says for 7 business days, there was 5 people who voted that, and then 7 people who voted 7 calendar days. 20 people, sorry, who voted 7 calendar days. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that. We have about 3 minutes left in our session. So Regina, how does it sound to launch the voting before the end of the day tomorrow?
I think that's something that we can do. I can't give you a specific time because I need to speak with the team in the morning, but I do believe that we'll be able to launch the voting tomorrow.
All right.
And that means that anybody that's signed up from tonight till the time that the voting is launched will get an individual ballot to vote. Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca?
Yes, this may seem really silly at this point. What does sign up actually mean? I'm not sure I'm signed up.
Of course you are. Yes, you are. Yes, I think you are. So did you go on? Well, let me just be clear. Did you go on to the website where people signed up to say that they wanted to be a part of the project? They're on the Russell City Reparative Justice Project site. There's a blue button that says Russell City Contact Form. If you signed up there, that is signed up.
Okay.
That is how we got your email to begin sending you communications about this project. If you have been receiving the communications that provided you with the link for tonight and information about the nominees, that means that you are signed up.
Okay.
Right? If you got that information and it came directly to your email address, I know that there were some spouses kind of using one email address, and that's why I was kind of encouraging everybody to sign up using each of their own individual addresses for each person that is wanting to be engaged and involved in this project.
Regina, I was just wondering if maybe it'd be good to put a link to that in the chat or
Sure.
so that if folks, they just want to confirm that they in fact went to that page,
Absolutely.
filled out that form.
Great idea.
Because if you do it again, we'll know it's a duplicate. so
Yeah,
we'll
it
share.
won't get recounted. Yeah. Contact form. Here it's coming into the chat. Everyone there.
Thank you, Regina.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Regina.
Kelly.
All right, everybody. So it sounds like our next steps is the the voting ballots will be released tomorrow, which is October 21st by the end of the day. So you'll get 7 calendar days to vote, which will bring us to closing of October 28th by end of the day. And then the city will take 2 business days to process the results. So we'll be able to announce those 2 days after that, which would be November 2nd. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you all so very much for your time today and for your participation. Thank you to the candidates who prepared their speeches and submitted their questionnaire responses. Many thanks to you all, and many thanks to all the community members for chiming in and sharing your thoughts about voting period as well. We're going to go ahead and close the meeting. Want to bid you all good night, good evening, take good care, and be on the lookout for those communications.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tiffany. Thank you
Good
all.
night. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
You're welcome. Good night.